There's never a dull moment in radio. That's one thing I know for sure. Lots of technical issues today, coordination issues. It's so exciting, you know. But at the end of the day, I'm very blessed to be in this position. I am live on the radio. How many people can say that? I know a lot of people are chasing for this position. I've worked hard to be here, so I guess I'm not saying that I just got handed to me, but still, I'm very thankful to be here. Yes, this is a Delivering Sports Show for all of my listeners, all my regulars. I'm sure you know who I am, but for everyone else, yeah, that's exactly who I am. I just graduated from UNLV with an accounting degree and a minor in Chinese, and here I am in broadcasting, living out the dream. So, yeah, what are you going to do? You know, doesn't always work out, but I'm very happy to be here. If you guys want to check me out, I am streaming live on Twitter at Spencer the Wiz, and also on the at KSHPLV, on YouTube, Delivering Sports, on YouTube, KSHP. I'm a little bit of everywhere. So a loaded show for you today. Actually, at the top of the show, I'm waiting for this guest, as the title suggests. I have a really awesome amateur boxer, a kid 17-year-old, just kind of running the gauntlet right now. I have tons of questions to ask him about the future of boxing, about his career, the preparation process, the whole 9 yards, man. I want to know everything that goes into it. So while we wait for him to phone in just a moment, I'll just get into the rest of the show. I'm going to talk about NFL, a lot of NBA news, the Raiders news up the wahoo, if I'm allowed to say that on the radio. I don't really know what my vocabulary. I haven't been given a list. Okay, so I'm trying to walk a thin line here. But there's no better place to start with James Harden. I have a ton of sound bites I want to play for you guys. So just so you guys can like stay up to date on what's going on. James Harden was obviously traded to the Brooklyn Nets. And before I go over all the details of that trade, here's kind of how it all came along. This is what James Harden had to say after their loss to the Lakers, I think a few days ago. So this is what he had to say about his teammates.
Joe never made a run at all. Made a run at all in this one.
We're just not good enough. You know, we don't obviously chemistry, talent wise, just everything. And it was clear, like I said, these last few games, they just, you know, from the beginning of the game, they were just aggressive, veteran team, obviously, championship team, and, you know, one of the best teams that we have in this league. You know, I love this city. I literally, you know, have done everything that I can. You know, I mean, this situation is crazy. You know, it's something that I don't think can be fixed. So, yeah. Thanks.
Okay, so that was James Harden after the loss to the Lakers. He said he did everything he could to the city. This is a guy who in this game, by the way, shot 5 of 16. So I don't think in that game, at the very least, you can say he put everything into it. This is a guy who, the height of his success, I mean, they did everything for him. The height of his success was going to the conference finals and getting stomped. So to say that he put all of it into him, I mean, this is a guy who also came into camp overweight, not ready to play basketball, not looking to play with his teammates, and suddenly it's their fault. They gave him Eric Gordon. They gave him Chris Paul. They traded for Russell Westbrook. And this is the way he treated his teammates. These guys who came into camp, you got John Wall, who's looking to lead another franchise. Honestly, I thought it could have worked. John Wall and James Harden. James Harden is more of a two-guard. Watching him dribble for 20 seconds is maddening, and he won't be able to do that on the Nets, which we'll talk about in just a second. But so he said this first. So this came out, and then it kind of went to the locker room after the postgame. So let's go over to see what John Wall had to say when asked about these comments from James Harden.
What's the chemistry outside of the court at this point? And do you feel like not all the players on the team are on the same page? Is it just some miscommunication through the season, or is something more than that?
It's a lot of basketball to be played, so we can't dwell down on what I think 3-6, 3-7, something like that. 3-6, like we only played 9 games. We can't dwell down on that. You know what I mean? It's a lot of basketball to be played. Like I said, it's going to be things where things get set off a little bit. You know what I mean? With guys missing games or missing practice, doing certain things like that. But any day, a lot of guys here want to compete at a high level. And like I told everybody tonight, I told the guys before, when the 1 through 15 guys all on the same page, they commit, they know their role, they know what they want to do, they know what they want to get out of this. That's the win. You all will be fine. But when you have certain guys in the mix that don't want to buy in all as one, it's going to be hard to do anything special, do anything good as a basketball team. I've been on those teams. In my 11 years been in the league, I've been on a team like that my first 5 years where it was all about me, not about the team. And that hurts. And it brings everybody down. So when we can get all on the same page, we can be something good here, and we can't dwell down on it because it's only been 9 games. Like,
all right, so yeah, I'll cut that off a little early, but I love this statement from John Wall. First of all, we'll talk about how he just singled out James Harden, said like he is not a part of this team. We do not associate with this guy. So, I mean, let's look at John Wall's lineage coming up to this situation. You know, he was a very, very big point guard going into this whole thing. Sorry, 1 second. I'm not getting word about my guest here, but he's calling in now. Okay, perfect. So we'll have him on in just a moment. So we'll continue this conversation once I get him on. But nonetheless, the questions about John Wall going into this game or into the season was he took 2 seasons off. We know that for sure. I mean, this is a guy who was regarded as a top 5 point guard for the most part before this injury. Although I will say the season before his injury, the questions were starting. The Wizards were not being a very successful franchise. So everyone was like, maybe it's his fault. So, but before that, we all know he was a top 5 point guard in the NBA. So after the injury, the setbacks, everything else, the trade, they said they didn't want him on the team. And he had a lot of questions about him in the locker room. People criticized him. But for him to step up after this Rockets situation here, for him to say, look, I told the guys in the locker room, the way his verbiage is, you can hear it. I told the guys. So he's like, James Harden is gone as far as I'm concerned. The trade had not happened at that point just quite yet. He said, I told the guys about what the situation was, and we're looking to move forward because these guys put a lot of work in training camp. So it's just cool to see that he hasn't given up on himself. He doesn't see himself as a role player. He sees himself as the exact same John Wall as he did before the injury, which is very nice. And there's also a lot of veteran leadership on the team, and that's DeMarcus Cousins. So let's see what he had to say after James Harden's comments about the team.
As a teammate of a guy, when he says the team is not good enough, how does that hit you and other core players of a team to be told that from a teammate or to hear that from a teammate?
Obviously, it's disrespectful, but everybody has a right to their opinion. We feel a certain type of way about some of his actions, but this is the nasty part of the business that kind of gets swept under the rug. You deal with these type of things, and
Hey, great. I'll have you on in just a moment.
In positions of being, franchise players or whatever the case may be.
No worries. We're all good. All right,
usually,
give me 1 moment.
Sometimes a nasty, breakup.
Right.
Like I said, that's all part of this business. We know what our mindset is coming in every day. We want to come in, work, get better.
All right, so I'm going to cut that off just a little bit early. We do have our guest ready on the phone line, and I'll try to introduce him right now. This is a gold medalist boxer, Jahi Tucker. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I don't want to say that. Jahi. I'm sorry about that, man. I'm so sorry.
It's cool, man.
You're from Brooklyn and Queens, right? Because I did produce a little bit of a little interview for you, so I want to make sure I'm getting that right, where you're from too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born in Queens. I went to school in Queens a little bit, but I was really raised mostly in Brooklyn, though.
Okay, so you do identify as both of them, right? Like, even though it seems to be a very polarizing thing. So do you when you introduce yourself to other people, depending on who you're talking to, you say you're from Queens or Brooklyn? I feel like it's nice to play both cards. Yeah. So to say a little bit about your accolades, you have 3 bronze medals and 3 gold medals through 2018 and 2019, and you're only 17 years old, which is kind of ridiculous, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So it looks like
just work.
So I want to go back to the very first tournament that I saw on your thing. So it's the 2018 National Junior Olympics, which I believe was your first official tournament. Is that correct, or did you do in tournaments before that?
That was my first official USA tournament. Yep.
Okay. So how many times? You got to explain this to me because I don't actually understand. Because it's a gold medal, which means there's multiple fights. So how many times did you have to fight people to get up to the gold medal match?
It really depends on how much people is in your bracket at the time. You don't fight more than 4 times.
Okay.
I fought to get the goal. I fought 3 times.
You fought 3 times,
and
yeah.
So when I got the bronze, I was supposed to fight 4 times. So that was my first time. So I wasn't ranked or anything. So when you're not really ranked, they just
Yeah, and how many fights do you how much time do you have in between fights, I should say? Because, the most famous fighters in the world take months and months off. But I imagine this is like an Olympic tournament or something. So they kind of let you turn these out fast. So how much time did you have between these 4 fights?
Oh, no, you fight in the amateurs, you fight every day. If you're lucky, you'll get a day. maybe if you're
Oh my
lucky, but
God.
most of the time you fight every day.
That's unbelievable. Do you think that's fair? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be exhausted after the first fight, right? Like, you have to have injuries too, I would imagine. So did you just run the gauntlet of these guys?
Yeah, you have to just like, it's just a part of it. And like, you still have to cut weight. So say you fight at 140, right?
Okay.
You cut weight to get to 140, and then you eat and stuff, you go back up to like 150. That same night you still have to cut those 10 pounds again to be ready for the morning.
So how do you do that? How do you cut 10 pounds in one day? You have to take me through this. I don't understand.
Yo, you just gotta work. Like you gotta put on some Abilene, some sweatpants, some jackets, and you gotta just go sweat as much as you can.
And this is after a fight, right? Process. So you just fought and you have to cut the 10 pounds too.
Yup. And no matter how hard the fight was, no matter what, like when I was in Utah, the first national I won, after every fight, I would go run 5 miles. After every fight.
How do you have the energy for that? Like what kind of mind state do you have to be in? Because I would imagine your face is hurting a little bit, your body's got to be hurting.
Yeah.
When you're running those miles, what is going through your mind to keep you going?
Gold medal. That's it. Just win. That's all I'm thinking. Like, just win. Like, yo, do you want to win or not? Like, you came all this way. Just go through with it, And
I got to ask you, like, how do you set yourself apart in these tournaments? I would imagine the gold medal is probably the best way, but is there a way to like kind of sort yourself out through all these things? Does the gold medal even matter? Like, what's the most important thing when you're showcasing yourself?
The most important thing, you got to showcase your skill, and this, like, because really and truly, you need to showcase that your skill and how bad you really want to win.
Yeah, so they must look at that. So how many formal fights did you have going into this national tournament here in 2018? Like,
the first one, the very first one, I had about, at the time, I probably had like 15 fights or 14 fights. I didn't have that many fights because I was fighting since I was 7. Since I was 8, I was fighting. I've been boxing since 7, but fighting since 8. And like, I took a break off of boxing when I was around 13, so I didn't have that many fights,
Wow. So,
and like, yeah.
So what, like, take me through your preparation process during this 2018 tournament. So you did a good fight. You run 5 miles apparently to drop this insane amount of weight. But what is but how do you prepare for the next fight? Like, when do you find out who you're fighting? And then also, like, do you look at a little tape from them? Like, do you know like what kind of style they're fighting?
Me personally, I don't like looking at the tape because people can change for any fight. I feel like that's like kind of not lazy, but you're trying that not really gonna really do anything sometimes, So I just go in there with the mindset that I'm ready for anything, and you find out who you're fighting. Either say that like you get to see the bracket and stuff, right?
Yeah.
You get to see how the matches are set up and stuff, so you could kind of get a picture. Like, all right, so if he wins, he moves on to this round and he'll face him if he wins. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. That just sounds so crazy to me that they put you through this, especially at such a young age. It almost doesn't seem fair, but I guess they're going through the gauntlet.
It's not just us. It's the little kids too. Like, you got little kids who's like, they're like sometimes they're like 10, 11, and they're doing the same stuff as just like older guys,
Do you? And like, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's crazy, But I can tell you one thing: it makes the professional ranks way easier, though.
Sure, I guess you have to. I guess the idea is that you have to prove yourself. Maybe that's what they're going for.
Yeah.
But if you can go back, I guess if you could run a tournament, would you run it this way, or would you prefer it this way? Like, I guess it's the quickest way to showcase yourself. You're doing 4 fights in 4 nights.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably it has its benefits because it sets your mindset to a different level, like your confidence level, But like, if I were to run a tournament, me personally, I wouldn't do it that way because, like, a lot of bad things can go wrong. Like, a lot of kids, a lot of kids do get hurt by stuff like that because when you're cutting weight, you dehydrate you got yourself, And some kids, they really cut all the weight they can, and then they have to fight. And mind you, after you weigh in, you don't get that long to recover. The most time you get is probably 5 hours, the most.
Right. Yeah. And I would love to get your opinion on this as a boxer. And you talk about cutting weight. That's such a big part of boxing as like right now, but it seems to be very unhealthy for the game, in my opinion, because a lot of guys there's been more serious injuries in boxing than ever before. And I think it comes from this pressure of dropping weight. Do you think there should be some sort of regulation about how much weight you can drop in a certain amount of time just for the safety of the sport?
yeah, we definitely should have some form of regulation, you know, in my opinion at least. Because one, the safety of fighters is the most important thing here. Because like I said, like there's boxing isn't a game that you play. You know what I'm trying to say? Boxing is something that's life and death, you know.
Yeah,
And
serious.
and you go in there, and one thing with fighters too, with fighters we're weird. Like we'll be like literally about to pass out, like hard for us to walk and all that, and like you can. It's visible, you know. It's not like it's not visible. It's visible, but we're always gonna tell you, yeah, but we're fine. Like we're just gonna push through it. We're fine. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Because we're fighters. That's how we're trained. Like we're trained to work through anything, you know.
Do you think you have to have a special mind to have that? I mean, how many people can get into a ring and get punched like that and almost be knocked out, but still have the desire to keep going?
Yeah, like boxing is different, you know.
Yeah. So how did you
Boxing
get
is
into it?
different.
Like, what was the spark for you to get into this crazy, crazy sport?
Honestly, I was like good, you know. I was just good really, because I told you I started boxing when I was like 7, you know, and like you know, we went to the gym, we trained, we sparred, you know, and then my coach at the time, he told me, yo kid, you could be real good. Like, do you wanna box? Right? Like meaning like, do you wanna actually go to competition and stuff? So I'm like, yeah, why not? I had no idea what I was getting myself into at the time. I'm not gonna lie to you. You know,
I'm sure.
I'm thinking it's just what we do in the gym. You know, we train and we like how it is in sparring. You know, you just fight. Like I didn't know all this stuff went into it at the time. I was like 7. You know.
Yeah, I mean that's a big leap. But okay, so tell me a little bit about your fighting style and like what you take into the ring and how you expect to win every single fight.
My fighting style. The biggest thing is I don't have just one fighting style. Like I'm very versatile, and I feel like a lot of fighters say that as well. But when I say versatile, I mean like I can change my game plan on an instant. Like I could change. When I say I could change my game plan, I mean I could like a chameleon type. You know, I could just transform to whatever fighter I'm fighting. I could find a way to beat him within the first couple rounds. You know.
Yes.
Or within even the first couple minutes of a round, I could see how he's coming, and I could figure out, all right, this is the best way to deal with him. You know, make it easier for myself to where I don't get hit, to where I can land my punches and win clearly. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. So are you saying in between rounds you're willing to change your fighting style based on what you're seeing with your opponent?
Yeah, not even in between rounds either. Like maybe even during the round.
Wow.
I change my fighting style. Say I get hit with something, or say I throw a punch and it misses, or it didn't land how I wanted to land. I'll be like, all right, cool, and I could make my adjustments from there. You know.
Wow. I mean that's pretty impressive that you're able to do that on the fly, and I would imagine that's very confusing for your opponent. So how did you learn all these different styles? Like how do you adapt during the fight, and like where do you learn to just change it on the fly?
Well, it really started because I fought different styles most of my career. Like every part of my career, I fought a different type of style. And then even while I was learning those styles, there was still pieces of other styles that I would add to my game. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, like stuff like that. And then, you know, just constant studying. And then when I got into the ring and I got to actually, you know, learn how to fight and stuff, and like got comfortable in the ring and stuff, right? I learned that not fighting is not really about like how you fight, you know, or it's about how conditioned you are and stuff, but it's really about how quick you could think, all right? It's really about how quick you think, how fast you could outthink your opponent. And once you do that, it'll make everything so much easier for you.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the entire sport of boxing just for a little bit, because I have to know what you think, because you're going into this profession like right now, you're entering soon into the like very prime of your career. You're looking to take on the entire sport. So when you see entities having off-brand tournaments like the Mike Tyson one, and of course that included the fight between like Jake Paul, I think it was Logan, I can't remember, and Nate Robinson, do you think that's bad for the sport to see stuff like that?
It has its ups. It has its good sides, you know. Of course, you know, some fighters, it has the downside. And the downside is really that, like, it's not really good for some fighters. Look, like I said before, boxing is life and death. Like, God forbid something bad can happen. You get what I'm trying to say? Something bad can happen, and like, then everybody's just left scratching their head, like, oh man, you get what I'm trying to say? And that would be a big blow for the sport. But it's also good for the sport because one, it draws more attraction to the sport. And it makes like it's bringing like you know how back in the day people used to like look into boxing a lot more than how well, now it's starting to pick back up, but you know, a couple years ago it wasn't having the buzz as it was before, you know. So it's bringing back the sport in some senses, but like everything else, it had its ups and downs.
Yeah, when I see Jake Paul and Nate Robinson, to me, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but I get it's a celebrity match. But I want to talk to you about this fight coming up as well, the one between Mayfield and Logan Paul. Celebrity boxing matches are something, but when you have arguably the greatest boxer of all time fighting some punk kid from YouTube, that can't sit well with you, right? That's kind of a joke to me.
I mean, to me, I look at it as the business side. It's the business side, because you know, boxing is not really. I don't really consider boxing a sport. I consider it really a business, you know. So it's the business side that I look at. It was a good business move because you have the greatest of all, like one of the greatest of all time, like the greatest of this era, okay? And the greatest of this era versus the guy off YouTube who has a lot of fans, so it's a lot of people pushing him. So I mean, a lot of people are gonna pay, which makes for great business, you know. As a boxing, I don't think it's the best thing for boxing because, like, really and truly, like, you know.
No, I totally agree with you. Do you see any YouTubers in your slate of fights coming up soon?
Hey, listen, I wouldn't complain if they were.
All right, yeah, whatever. I mean, if they give you a $1 billion, I'm sure it'd be hard to pass down, right?
Man, like, I mean, hey, man, I'll fight for you know, they getting paid for that. You know, that's a big event. So for stuff like that, you know, I'm no question, like, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it makes more sense when you say it that way. But I want to go a little further because, you know, you're doing a lot of tournaments right now, 4 fights in 4 days. But eventually you're going to have like mainstay fights on cards and stuff like that. So I want you
I won 4 already.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're dominating right now. But eventually you're going to get the big pay-per-views. You're going to have the big matchups and everything like that. But I want you to help shed some light on behind-the-scenes stuff. So when you see these guys on TV, like Conor McGregor, I guess I'll say as like a throwaway, with these over-the-top personalities and everything like that, is that just like to sell seats, to sell pay-per-views, or are they really like that behind the scenes? Or is that how you have to act as a boxer to be in the mentality to be in a fight?
Well, honestly, it's probably partially all 3 of those, because you have some guys who, you know, they're just selling a character. You get what I'm saying? They're just selling a character, and that's just how they make their money, you know? That's how they get their name buzzing, which is, you know, it's all right because that's business, like I said. You have other guys, you know, some guys, I guess they're really like that, you know? Some guys are really like that behind the scenes. That's just their personality, which is fine too. And you got some guys who, they just need that to just boost themselves up. It's not really about business. It's not how they really are. But it's just to boost their ego so they feel like, you know, it makes them more confident to go fight.
Is that is that your style? Like, let's say like you're going to have that pre-fight meeting where you go face to face in the pictures and stuff like that. Do you see yourself maybe pushing the guy a little bit? Are you kind of the more silent type?
No, I'm one of the more silent types because one thing I can say, I was taught, like, you never tell anybody what you're gonna do to them, like when you're about, especially when you have to fight them. You get what I'm trying to say? So, you know, I'll never be like, yeah, and I start pushing the guy and stuff, and like, you know what I'm trying to say? That's not really my style. But you know, it sells a fight though. It's great business, but it's not really my style though. When
you're in the ring, maybe does that come out a little bit? Because I feel like being cocky in the ring may be like an advantage, you know, where you kind of throw your hands around a little bit, maybe drop your hands. Do you ever done a little bit of that?
Oh yeah. And that's something that's like, you know, that's good. Like, that's some fighters, you know, they take it too far, but a little cockiness, you know, is showmanship. Showmanship sells. The people came to see a show, they're gonna come see a show, you know.
Yeah,
it's a part of the show.
Yeah, I mean that's what sells boxing. I mean that's really important because UFC is vibrant with these kinds of characters, and I think maybe boxing needs a little more of those. But so okay, we'll move on a little bit here. I want to know when your next kind of scheduled fight is.
Oh, February 13th. I'm be in Las Vegas in the MGM Grand in the bubble. February 13th on ESPN Plus or ESPN.
Absolutely. You know, yeah, it's fantastic.
Next fight.
So, who are you fighting? Do you know as of right now? I'm sure you do.
Eric Rodriguez. I got Eric Rodriguez out of Florida.
Okay, so when you know who your opponent is, tell me what you do for training. Is it like, do you train the same way consistently, whether you have a fight scheduled or not? Like, or do you ramp it up when you know the fight's coming?
No, I train the same way all year round because you always got to stay ready, you know? Fights can just pop up at any given time. And I feel like that gives me a mental edge because some guys, they get complacent with their training and they start feeling as if, like, they don't have to train as hard when you don't have a fight. And it's like, you know, I don't really agree with that because what if your promoter just calls and say, yo, I got to fight for you 2 weeks from now. And now you got to try to rush and make weight and do all types of stuff, you know? But when you're already in shape and you know you've been working on your craft, you don't really worry.
No, for sure. And, you know, just in case anyone thinks that they can be a boxer, I don't know if anyone thinks they can, but tell us what a day of training looks like for you.
I train all day. Like, I leave my house at probably like 9 o'clock. And, like, I'm not coming back home till like 9 o'clock or 10.
So when you wake up, like, what's the first thing do you do? Is it breakfast? Is it push-ups? I don't know.
Nah, first thing I do, I just get up. I brush my teeth. Because most of the time I eat like after I work out and stuff, you know? So I don't really eat in the morning sometimes. Sometimes I do if I have sparring or something, but I don't really eat in the morning. So I'll wake up, you know, I'll brush my teeth, shower, whatnot, throw my clothes on, you're way out the door, start training.
So, like, do you like have different days? Is one cardio? Is one all weightlifting? Or does it mixed in every single day?
You have some days it's like, you know, we got sparring days. We got some days it's just strength training. We have some days we just work on technique. You know, we mix it up. And some days we do everything, you know. Most days we do everything, but some days we have like specific focuses, you know.
And does it come with a very strict diet? And like, if you do have a strict diet, do you like monitor yourself? Do you have like a trainer who kind of tells you what to eat every day?
I mean, really and truly, it does not all the time. But when we're supposed to fight time, it's a strict diet. I have my dad. My dad's really my coach. He's my main coach. And, like, he's the one who really tells me what to eat and, like, you know, how much and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's easy. And I can't imagine the food's always the greatest, what you eat. Although maybe if it's steak, that's pretty good. So we'll wrap up this interview. I know you have the fight coming in February, but what are your full plans for 2021? And I guess moving forward from there, like, what do you want out of the year and going forward?
If I had it my way, end of this year, I'd be a world champion, or at least be looking towards a world title shot, because, like, I feel like I'm one of the best in the sport already. It's just, only thing is, I just need to just adjust to the pro style, you know? And I feel like that's coming very well. Like, my next fight, I want you guys to watch. I want you guys to see the growth from my first 2 fights to now, because it's really, like, crazy to see, you know? It's a crazy growth that's been taking place for this whole training camp. And I can't wait to show it to you guys, man.
I'll be watching for sure. All I ask from you is that when you get big and huge and famous, that you'll still call into my show every once in a while.
Whenever you need, bro, you know I'm here, man. I hope that you still call me to be on your show.
Oh, of course. You know, I'll be watching all your fights now, so I'll be cheering for you. Hopefully I can get press passes in one of these things once COVID kind of clears up. I'd love to go out all your fights, but I really can't.
Oh, yeah, man, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, and I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and just giving us an insight of what boxing is like, because I think it's just been muddled through all this COVID-19 stuff, but you give a real look into it. You're really I think you're gonna be huge into this sport. You're exactly what the sports need. So thank you so much for joining the Delivering Sports Show. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it, man. And yeah, shout out I couldn't get a few shout outs. Of course. Shout out my publicist. You know, she you know, shout out A, you know, she's the best. I love her with all my heart, you know. Shout out Jay Prince, shout out Top Rank, shout out Born and Bred, shout out my dad, shout out my little brother, because my little brother, he's, after me, you're going to see my little brother. He's going to be better than me. I put money on it. Like, everybody needs to go follow him on Instagram at No Limit Marley. And, yeah, watch out for him. Shout out my team, shout out my Coach Joe, Coach Rob, everybody. Where can we find you on social media, you know, to finish this up? You can follow me on Instagram at whois_Jahi Tucker. That's me right there. Fantastic. Thank you, Jahi. And we'll talk to you soon probably after your fight. Maybe I'll see if I can get you back on. Definitely, man. Appreciate it again. Thank you. All right. Have a great night. Thank you. You too. All right, that was Jahi Tucker, an up-and-coming amateur boxer, 2 gold medals in the past 2 years. The kid is 17-year-old. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I thank him so much for coming on, and I thank everyone who helped me get him on. It was a really fantastic guest, and I will watch his career with great interest. I feel like I'm becoming a Star Wars meme, but I do want to finish up this talk just a little bit before I bring on a couple of friends, one from high school and his buddy, to talk about some NFL playoffs, and that was the slate or the James Harden trade, I should say. I did a slate of media spots, and I want to finish up with just one more spot, and this was from Shaquille O'Neal, and this happened right before the trade. So this is what Shaquille O'Neal had to say. This is a guy who's a championship, a proven winner. This is what his opinion on James Harden. He said it on TNT.
Jack, you got a problem with how James Harden forced his way out of Houston?
Yes and no. One is the business of basketball, but when you say you gave the city your all, that ain't true. And I'm about to say some things, and keep in mind I have G14 classification to say these things. You asked for Dwight Howard, we gave him to you. Didn't work out. You asked for Chris Paul, we gave him to you. You asked for some shooters, we gave it to you. We asked for Westbrook, your homeboy from Little League, we gave him to you. Didn't work out. And when you say I gave you everything, I say no, you didn't, because the last 5 games when it comes to elimination, you're 1-4. You've been shooting 41%, 24% from 3, 32 assists, and 27 turnovers. I used to be like James. I used to come home and complain, man, he didn't do it. And my father, rest in peace, Sergeant Philip Harris, used to say, but what the hell did you do? He ain't do nothing. He ain't step up when he was supposed to step up. So, when you're the man and you make all the money, you make 30, 40 million a year, it's a big responsibility. Chuck has said this many times. When you're the man, you got a big responsibility. It's all on you. So when it comes time to show up, he ain't show up. So I know a lot of people in Houston glad he's gone. So now he got his little super team. He got to win this year. If you don't.
That was Shaquille O'Neal with some very strong words, and it's really cool to see his development over the years too. I mean, this is a guy who was a problem in the locker room, and he's able to recognize that. And I think he's trying to speak to James Harden directly about his attitude. Whether or not he listens, James Harden has already come out and said that he didn't mean any disrespect by his comments that you guys just heard earlier in the show. To me, that's a little disrespectful to say your team isn't good enough. Especially, you have Christian Wood, who's probably going to be the most improved player of the year. John Wall, who's back and is playing well, which is great to see. Eric Gordon, we know, is a good player. DeMarcus Cousins, we know, can be a good player. And you can go down the slate. Is their roster the worst in the West? No, and not even close. They are a playoff team for sure. They should be, and they actually might be with Victor Oladipo. We'll see. But let me go over the full trade in just one moment here. So the Nets obviously just get James Harden. There's nothing else. The Rockets end up getting, because this is a 4-team trade, keep in mind, they get Victor Oladipo from the Pacers, Dante Exum, who I think was on the Cavaliers. They get Kurix, 3 Brooklyn first-rounders, 1 Milwaukee first, that came from the Cavs, and 4 Brooklyn first-round swaps. So if anyone doesn't know what a swap pick is, that means whoever has the better pick, it's going to go to the Rockets. Now, most of the time, the Nets probably are going to have a better record, so that might not be relevant. The only thing is you can't trade picks in consecutive years, so that means that the way to get around it is a pick swap that might never, ever happen. The Pacers end up getting Karis LeVert, a second-rounder. The Cavs get Jared Allen and Taurean Prince. So let's go through this very quickly before I bring my friends on. I know they're waiting very patiently. I very much appreciate that. But James Harden with the Nets. You got Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant. Now, on paper, that's like 100 points right there between the 3 of those dudes. But when it comes to on the court, now, I will not accept the argument that there's only one basketball to score, because let's be honest. I mean, we said that about Golden State when Kevin Durant went there, and it worked out pretty darn well. So I think scoring is going to be fine. But on the other side of the ball, you got to play defense. They do not have a Draymond Green. They were close to one with a Jared Allen defensively, but they traded him away, right? And also, I think the other issue, amongst many other things, is that you have 3 guys who just have not proven themselves to be leaders on any basketball team. Kevin Durant had that chance in OKC. It did not work out. They went to the finals and got absolutely stomped on. Then he went to Golden State he thought he was going to be the leader of that team. And once again, he fell very, very short on that end. And he left because he felt salty, because that was obviously Steph Curry's team. And we all knew that. But he, in his mind, for some reason, did not think so. And then Kyrie Irving, he was with LeBron James. I can do it. Well, he went over to the Celtics to prove that he was the leader, and that just crashed and burned. Nobody liked him. He was not focused on basketball. And then we can, talk about James Harden forever. The guy's out of shape. Didn't care about his team. He abandoned the franchise and offered him $100 million extension for 2 years because they said he couldn't get it done, even though he orchestrated the team that was created right there. These guys all have to prove themselves, and all three of them are going to have to sacrifice. At the very least, James Harden and Kyrie are going to have to do that. Now, when you have two guys who don't care about basketball that much, or two guys in Kyrie Irving and James Harden where their top priority in life is not basketball, to me, that's a major issue. And then you got to think about everything else. They still have the depth issues now because they traded away their depth. And you also, DeAndre Jordan has to play extended minutes. I don't think he can. I mean, he hasn't this season. And in the game against the Knicks, he didn't when he was supposed to. So we'll have to monitor. I think tomorrow they were supposed to play, but now there's some sort of quarantine going on with the new NBA rules, which I'll talk about in a little bit once I get a chance. And the Pacers, to wrap this conversation up, since I want to get through all these other topics, and I'll have more time, I guess I'll go back to it at the end. They do get rid of Victor Oladipo, and it kind of seems sad because they had a really awesome thing going here. I mean, they are dominating teams, and they actually beat the Trailblazers. They blew them out without Victor Oladipo. I guess the idea is that Victor Oladipo is on expiring. They don't want to pay him, and Karis LeVert has 2 years left on his deal. I think he's making like $16, $17 million a year. So they kind of give themselves cap space, and they give a guy pretty comparable to that. So that's kind of the trade, and the Cavs get Jared Allen and Taurean Prince. I think Jared Allen's good. That definitely means Andre Drummond is gone. But without further ado, we're going to talk some NFL football. There's a lot of playoff games coming on, and I very recently reconnected with a friend from high school, a very good friend, actually. We were in Hebrew class together. We had tea all the time. That's what I remember the most from it. But that man is Michael Scheinman. Hopefully I can bring you on here. Looks like, there we go. Hey, how's it going, man?
It's great. How about yourself?
Oh, I can't hear you. Maybe
how about now? Is that better?
Your headset isn't working, so go check your mic settings inside StreamYard. And your microphone may not be set to your headset, so once you give that a second, I'll prime the stage here. I do have some graphics. I should have been using this entire show, but I do produce my own show, so it's a little difficult. But he is wearing his Packers jersey. You can see here. So once he gets his little microphone on, but basically, here we go.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you yet. So if it's not working, what you can do is actually just switch to your phone and use your phone's microphone in emergency situation. I think that should be okay too. But I'll give you a few minutes and then I'll start talking about it. The LA Rams were not supposed to win that game against the Seahawks. That's the bottom line. And you'll have to also let me know if your friend's ready because we're going to bring on a little trio here. Oh, there he is. This is Alex Perron. Let's see what he's got going on. Hey, how's it going, man?
How's it going? Nice to meet you, dude.
Oh, wait 1 second. Okay, hold on. Say that one more time.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah. Michael, can you do your microphone check?
Can you hear me now?
Okay, there we go. Awesome. There we go. Woo, we got it going. So we're going to start off here with this Packers game. The Packers have everything going for them, right, guys? I mean, Aaron Rodgers is going to win MVP. The Rams should have never won the game. They put 30 points on the Seahawks with an injured Jared Goff. Can anyone make an argument for the Packers not winning this game? I guess I won't start with you, Michael, being like you're wearing a Packers jersey. But
I'll tell you I can, though. I'll tell you I can.
How can the Rams win this football game?
Okay, the Packers are never good against great defenses. And this number one Rams defense, it's kind of gone under the radar, but we've got Aaron Donald, and any team with Aaron Donald is going to have some sort of defense. Like Troy Aikman called him the best D-end he's seen, and he's played against Lawrence Taylor and people of that sort. So it's just like the 49ers of last year, who didn't have all that flashy of an offense, had a spectacular defense, and just wiped the floor with the Packers. We could see something like that, and that's what I'm most nervous about, I would say.
Alex?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the Packers are definitely the favorites here, but I mean, the Rams were very impressive last week. I think in the playoffs, when you have a defense like that, anything's possible. I think, they can get some key turnovers, but I don't know. I agree with Mike. I think Aaron Rodgers, he wants another one for his legacy. He's done everything else. He's won one Super Bowl, but another one would really add to the resume. So I think he's super determined. As you said, he's playing at the highest level. He's at least close to the highest level he's ever played in his career. So I think it'll be close, but I think they'll get the job done.
And we can actually bounce on this idea. I wanted to ask both of you this question. So you have Aaron Rodgers, who was pretty upset about the Jordan Love signing, or the draft, I should say. Do you think that had any factor in him having one of the best seasons of his career, that he was playing upset? Or do you think he would have the same exact career whether or not they had drafted him or not?
I think for me, first of all, don't even get me started on that whole Jordan Love stuff. I'll rant for days. But I mean, I think it definitely did upset him, and an upset Aaron Rodgers is just unstoppable. Like Aaron Rodgers in a regular season is the top 5 quarterback, no questions asked. But now with a little bit more fire, like you could tell the time's ticking on his career, even though I guess Brady and Breeze are playing till they're like 40s. I think Rodgers saw that this is his opportunity to win a couple and show the team that they don't need a quarterback. They don't need anything like that.
Alex?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it probably added some motivation. I mean, I think also, I mean, a lot of people don't really realize the Packers have had an excellent running game all season. I mean, I think he's got a lot of weapons around him. I think Devontae Adams is probably a top 5 receiver in the league. I don't think he gets as much love as he should, honestly. And I think, I don't know, I think they're a
top
complete
5.
team.
He's number 1.
I don't know about that, but I mean, I'd probably put him top 3. But I mean, I think with their defense, I think they're just a complete team, and I think this is probably the best team Aaron Rodgers has ever had, and it would definitely be an upset if they didn't at least win this game, much less make it to the Super Bowl. So yeah. I think there's almost a little pressure on him, knowing that, you know, this is probably the best team he's had. They just drafted a quarterback, so they're obviously at least thinking somewhat to the future. So I think he definitely, like you said, probably has a little extra motivation this year, and that helped him reach another level.
Yeah, and I remember a certain Brett Favre who had a backup quarterback named Aaron Rodgers a while ago that may have sparked some interest there too. So we'll see if it's the same thing. We'll move on here, and probably my second favorite matchup of the entire weekend here is the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. Lamar Jackson finally gets the stink off of him, I guess a little bit off the franchise after a while, that he cannot win a playoff game. They won it convincingly, sort of. I mean, 20-10, I guess, is a 2-score game, but their offense didn't look great, and it looks like there's going to be some inclement weather here. Where do you guys see this game going? Right now, it sits at a 2.5-point spread favorite to Buffalo. Personally, I think the Buffalo Bills are going to have an easy time here. Now, they had one of the best games of the season against Derrick Henry, but they're a bottom 6 defense. They're front 6. They give up like the 6th most rushing yards per game in the league. So it's up to the Bills, I guess, to take advantage of that and then to work on the play action. But if they do so, and plus they're playing in weather that's, you know, more acclimated to them in their city, which is a huge factor. And I think that'll also be a big factor in the Green Bay games. It looks like it's going to snow there. Where do you guys see this Buffalo Bill Ravens matchup lining up?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So, I mean, this is probably my favorite game to watch of the week. And also, I don't know if anyone likes betting, but my favorite game to bet this week. I agree with you completely. I think the Bills are going to have a pretty easy time, and 2.5 is a pretty good number. But I just think, you know, Lamar Jackson says he has absolutely how much it ends up snowing. But I just think the Bills they were very hot coming into the playoffs. I think, you know, they got the one, you know, most of the players on their team hadn't been in the playoffs, and they got that, you know, out of the way last week. They got a win. I think they'll be a little bit more comfortable in the playoff atmosphere. They've been really good at home all year. I think they're a very good team. And honestly, I think the potential AFC championship between the Chiefs and the Bills is going to be an incredible game. So I just think that they should be pretty comfortable this week.
Michael?
I think it'll all come down to the quarterbacks, like most games, but I think this one in particular, it's really the Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson story for that game. Really, I see who's going to run the most, who's going to get out of the pocket and get a couple of throws in. I think that's what it's going to come down to. But going back, not to go back to the Packers again, but going back to that game, like you said, I think weather's actually going to really affect it too, because even though it forecasts is about 30 degrees or so, I saw a statistic that said Jared Goff is 0 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in 2 starts below 35 degrees. So that may be a huge difference maker there too.
No, I totally believe that. And at the end of the day, I just don't believe in Lamar Jackson just quite yet. Can he make incredible plays with his legs? Of course he can. We saw it in that game. It's what won them that football game. But at the end of the day, winning scoring 20 points in an NFL playoff game is not going to win you a Super Bowl. And it's certainly not going to win you a game against a team like the Buffalo Bills, who are finally looking to make that next step forward. They fell apart in that Houston game, which they never should have. But, that was only Josh Allen's second year in the league, keep in mind. He's only the third year. And he's progressing very quickly. So these are two guys that do have like very little playoff experience, and I think the advantage goes to the Buffalo Bills. Two more games here on the weekend. We got the Cleveland Browns and the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, in my mind, the Cleveland Browns are America's team. They're America's sweethearts. Everyone's rooting for them. But does the dream stop here after beating their division rivals with the Steelers?
I mean, go ahead. I mean, yeah.
No, I think we're both going to say the same thing. I don't see how you can make even an argument for the Browns here. Like the one game the Chiefs lost, that was a throwaway game, and they weren't even trying. You could tell against the Chargers and things like that. And the Browns, I mean, they're shaking it off, but it's still the curse of the Browns. I mean, I don't see them shaking that off anytime soon. I think it was a great first win in the playoffs. They should be proud of that, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't bet on it, but I think it just depends. I think the Steelers and the Chiefs are a very different animal. The Steelers are obviously a very flawed team, and the Browns showed that last week, even though a lot of people thought the Browns had no chance against the Steelers as well. But I mean, as Mike said, I don't know if there's a huge argument you can make here. I mean, I do think the Chiefs, despite being 14-2, as crazy as it sounds, are a little bit more vulnerable than they were last year. And that's why I think the Bills maybe have a chance of knocking them off. But yeah, I don't see the Browns pulling out here in Kansas City, especially.
I'll make an argument here. I think it's worth talking about this Kansas City defense. I mean, they have not covered a spread in, I think, 10 weeks, something like 8 weeks at the end of the season. They played a lot of close games against teams they should not have been close in at all. And look, Kareem Hunt, we know how he can be successful. Nick Chubb, we know can be successful. The only problem is I just don't trust them late game. That game against the Steelers was a little too close for comfort after having 4 interceptions on Ben Roethlisberger. They had that last interception essentially sealed the game. But if they went down and scored, that we would have been talking maybe about a little bit of a closer football game, maybe in a field goal game. Not that they would have lost, but that's not going to work against Kansas City. We know how good they are in late games. So it's almost better for the Cleveland Browns to be playing from behind. If they're playing like a 7-7 game, I think the advantage goes to them. I'm not in love with the 57-point total here. I'm going to go under on that one. And I also don't, if the Kansas City Chiefs can't cover a 10-point spread in the regular season, I don't think they're going to do that in the playoffs. No. Or do I think they can just snap their fingers and ramp it up after 8 weeks of playing mediocre? I don't think the Cleveland Browns will win the football game either, but I think it'll be a little more interesting than people think. So I like the Browns and the under in that one. Last playoff game of the weekend here. This is my personal favorite matchup. That's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints. 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks at the end of their careers, looking to get one more in there. Where do you guys see this matchup rolling? I mean, this is going to be a great game.
I think it may not be as close as people think. Like, I see the Saints taking it. I think it may not be just because, like Tom Brady said, Drew Brees is 18 months younger. He's got those fresh legs. I think it's going to come down to the running game, of course. I think Tampa Bay, when they played Green Bay, they showed they can't really stop. We never really got the running game going, and they can't really stop that running game. I mean, it's the number 1 running back in the league right now, you have to say. And with Drew Brees just being solid and experienced in the playoffs too, they've got the passing game going too. I think the Saints are going to take it and even blow them out, because I think that Tampa Bay defense is very shoddy. It's very hit or miss.
So I'm going to go the other way, actually. So kind of the same kind of arguments, though. I think this, as you said, the Saints running game is very strong, but I mean, Tampa Bay actually did have the league's best running defense. So, I mean, I think there was a couple of games, obviously, they played the Saints twice this year. The second game was a blowout. I just think it's hard to beat Tom Brady 3 times in 1 year, much less. And so I'm a little biased here, but I think Brady may have one more kind of magical playoff moment, but it should be a really good game. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes either way. And also, I did just want to add about the Browns-Chiefs game. I also agree. I think 10 points is too much to give. I think the Browns, if you're going to play, is the way to play it.
For sure. Yeah, and this is a tough matchup for me. I mean, you got 2 noodle arms basically by the end of the season. Drew Brees looked awful in that Vikings game. That interception he threw was underthrown by like 10 yards. And he did, I think the injury, I don't know, it's weird to say helped him. It's weird to say that someone broken ribs helped somebody. But for him not to be throwing his arms and be on his leg for so many weeks may have. It's going to come down to Alvin Kamara and if he can get going, because I don't think Drew Brees is going to win you a football game at this point in the season. They didn't play fantastic against the Bears. And I guess Tom Brady didn't either, but the chemistry they have with Antonio Brown is ramping up to another nth degree. And I've been saying all season long, I don't believe in the Saints, so it'd be weird for me to go for them in this matchup, especially with the Tom Brady-led Buccaneers who were so successful in their first year. I mean, how great is Tom Brady? I mean, good Lord. But that is our NFL talk, guys. Thank you so much for joining the show, and thank you so much for waiting patiently. It was a really fun talk, and we're excited to see what happens on this NFL Sunday, and we'll obviously talk about it next week.
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Thanks
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'll message you guys after. Whatever, but thank you. All right, so we're going to wrap up the show. I only have time for one more topic. Geez, I thought I'd be way behind today, but, it would be so that I just didn't have enough time to talk about everything, which is always a good thing. And I want to talk about this Raiders DUI situation. So I'm going to read this article. I think I have 4 minutes. I'm going to try to read it very quickly. So this was the first situation. This is the first word we heard about the Josh Jacobs DUI, and I will read it verbatim here. And this is from Josh Alper, the article. Reports noting Raiders running back Josh Jacobs' DUI arrest in Las Vegas early Monday said that he was taken to the hospital for minor injuries, and his mugshot provides evidence of one of those injuries. He did have it at the top of his little forehead. TMZ obtained the photograph, and it shows Jacob with the injuries, a large laceration in his forehead. The police report pay attention here. The police report from the incident says Jacobs told officers that he thinks he fell asleep at the wheel, which makes him very lucky that his injuries were minor, let alone if he had hit somebody else. I don't know. But the police report also says that Jacobs told the officers he had been drinking and that there was an odor of alcohol on his breath, but that Jacobs passed a field sobriety test after being taken to the hospital. That hospital, mind you, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was St. Rose. So if anybody lives in Vegas, you know that the strip where this accident happened is not close to St. Rose, but that's okay. Then they said he intends to do a not guilty deal. So, and this is the second report saying that he does not have a DUI coming his way. Raiders running back Josh Jacobs, 22, is not being charged with driving under the influence, according to Clark County District Attorney. Instead, he will be charged with a failure to exercise due care. Okay, the police investigation in Josh Jacobs' case revealed that Mr. Jacobs' blood alcohol level was below the legal limit, and therefore DUI charges are not being filed against him. However, based on Mr. Jacobs' driving behavior, my office has filed a criminal complaint for one misdemeanor count of duty of driver to deceive speed under certain circumstances. It was a single car crash, so luckily the person who didn't hurt apparently was uninjured as well. But according to the arrest reports for Jacobs, the officer responded to the scene, smelled alcohol, and also he said he had been drinking. All right. Look, I can't say whether or not what field sobriety test he had or why they took him so far away from the scene of the action, but this kind of speaks to the fear that every single one of us, regular folk, I'll call us regular folk, listening to the radio, watching on Twitter has, and that's that the elite, the rich people have access and have people do favors for them beyond the normal person. If I got pulled over, I'll just say this in my own personal, not my own personal experience. I do not drink and drive, but let's say I did. Me, a 23-year-old kid, I got into a crash by the airport. I smelled like alcohol. I said I had been drinking. I would not be treated so nicely, in my opinion. And it just worries me that this kind of stuff is going on. And if it's true that they drove him around and they drove him that long distance just so he could pass a field sobriety, not the field sobriety test, that's not an objective thing. They could say, oh, he's fine, let's take him to the hospital and then we'll do the test. That drive could be anywhere between 30 and 45 minutes. I used to date somebody over by St. Rose, so I know how long that drive is. You got traffic, the whole thing. Plus, you got to go through the whole accident scene, getting him out, patching him up. It scares the living heck out of me, and I don't want special treatment for anybody, any Raiders player. I'm a Raiders fan, but I do not care. If this guy was driving under the influence and he got off because they're fans of the Raiders or whatever it may be, that is a major problem and that should be looked into. Again, I literally just read you the reports. He had been drinking, he said, and he did smell like alcohol, and he's not getting any charges for a DUI. I don't understand how that works. But it looks like we're coming in at the end of the show here. The station ID is going to play in a second. One moment while I go through that. But I want to thank everybody for listening. Actually, what I'll do is this. This was a really great show. I want to thank Mr. Tucker for coming on. That was a very enlightening, I don't know, lightning's the right word, but it was a great interview to hear about a professional and what he thinks about the sport of boxing going forward. And we will be watching his career with great interest. I keep going back to that stupid little meme. But anyways, that's going to do it for today's episode of Delivering Sports. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Spencer the Wiz for all my updates. Other than that, guys, that's going to do it for tonight. And I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day and a safe one at that.
The world famous radio shopping show weekdays on 1400 KSHP North Las Vegas and KSHP.com.
Infection rates are up 34%. More people are being hospitalized because of COVID than ever before.
Biden again calling on Americans to wear face masks for the first 100 days of his administration. With Democrats in control of the House, Senate, and White House, Americans are feeling less confident about the economy to start the new year. That's what a University of Michigan consumer sentiment poll is showing. However, the chief economist of the poll says it's a relatively small decline given the pandemic and recent violent events at the U.S. Capitol. You're listening to USA Radio News.
For 3